Welcome to the Revolution of Purpose podcast. I'm your host, John Street, and each week we bring you conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and individuals who have aligned their life with purpose and created extraordinary results.
So I'm going to live through it and accept it radically with grace and hope and love.
I would be proud to be in this council.
It was an honor. I had so much fun.
Tune in every Monday for the Revolution of Purpose solo show and every Thursday for Revolution of Purpose conversations. Welcome to this episode of the Revolution of Purpose podcast. Today, I am so excited to welcome Brendan Dauenhauer to the Revolution of Purpose pod. Brendan is an entrepreneur who has built his career in the world of real estate investing, helping connect investors with opportunities through Dauenhauer Capital. But what really catches my attention about Brendan is that he's entering a new season as well, one that's focused not just on building wealth through real estate, but on helping others develop the knowledge, the confidence, and the mindset to build wealth themselves. I love conversations like this because, as you know, I love talking about purpose, and this is definitely more than just business. This is about purpose. This is also about growth. It's about evolution of who we become. And we've been talking a lot on this pod lately about our identity. And I think every entrepreneur reaches moments where they have to decide whether they're simply going to build a successful business or create a lasting impact and shift their identity by investing in other people. Today, we're going to explore Brendan's journey, what he's learned along the way, and why he's passionate about helping others get started in real estate, and what this next chapter looks like as he launches his own coaching program. So, Brendan, welcome to the Revolution of Purpose podcast. I'm really looking forward to this.
Wow, John, what an intro. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. So, I love to ask this first question to every guest that comes on this show. Who are you today that your younger self would be proud of, Brendan?
Goodness, we're getting that deep on question one, huh?
Question one, we just dive in.
Who am I today that my younger self would be proud of? The first thing that came to mind after repeating that question was just somebody who goes big and takes a lot of risk. You know, I think growing up, I was very risk adverse. I was super introverted and still trying to navigate my way around life, right? And I also grew up in a very conservative household where like money and finances were, very mechanically saved and things of that nature, to where it's like almost scarcity in a way, I would say, without like it being super prominent. There was just that like underlying tone of scarcity, I think. And now I think I am just the complete opposite of that in the best ways possible. I feel confident, taking risk, and I look forward to taking risk as an individual now. So I think that would be my answer.
Have you ever read, and I'm sure you probably have, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yes, but not until about maybe a year or two ago, actually. I was already a real estate investor by the time I read it, but yes, I have read it.
That's a life-changing book for sure. But it sounds kind of like you grew up in the safe 9 to 5. This is what you do to save for retirement, and that type of life. Is that correct, do you think?
That is 100% correct. And both of my parents were in the military, and their parents were in the military, and that was just how it was, right? It's like you go to school, you get a degree, you get a great job, and then you save for retirement. And, you also save a lot of money while you're, getting to retirement. It's not even just the 401ks or the IRAs or things of that nature. It was like, save as much as you possibly can so that you can enjoy your life when you're 65 sort of thing. And I think the irony in all of that is my brother and I only have one sibling, are both entrepreneurs now. And we don't have any entrepreneurs within our line of family whatsoever. We kind of broke that family tradition of keeping the 9 to 5s.
You decided you did not want to wait until you're 65 to live life, right?
That is correct. I don't think anybody does. And, I honestly credit a lot to my brother. He's my older brother, and he kind of set that tone. I think I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like back in elementary school, I would go buy a bunch of candy at Sam's Club or Costco or whatever it was at the time. And I would put it literally in like a briefcase. And I'd go to school and I'd hustle it and I'd sell it out of the briefcase. And I remember like getting in trouble or doing something like that. But I always just remember wanting to do that. And, it took me until I'm 35 now, and it took me till I was around 33 years old to become a full-time entrepreneur. I really didn't take that jump for so many years later, and worked the 9-to-5 world for way too long.
God, we talked once before about the golden handcuffs and how that 9-to-5 really is like golden hand, and it's tough. I mean, when I finally gave up my W-2 job, and I look back on that now and think, how did I not burn that ship sooner? But there's just something about knowing you have a consistent paycheck that can kind of give you peace. And you have to do it. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to do it when the time's right for you. I think it probably differs for everybody.
You're so right. And I would say now the golden handcuffs are more golden than they've ever been, right? Like I came from, my last job was at Netflix. And oh my goodness, being a FANG company and one of the, top companies within the world, they will give you any and every benefit to keep you around at any cost. You're walking into the nicest facilities every day. There's paid catered lunches every day when you go in. I mean, they're not going to let you off easy, but I think we all know that even with all those great benefits, when there's a burning desire within you, that burning desire is much stronger than all the paid lunches and the high pay and the stock options and things of that nature.
You're so right. It reminds me of a quote that I heard once. It said, "A Rolex is not a flex if it tells you when your lunch hour is over."
Dang.
And
that's so good.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. So I'm so glad you mentioned Netflix, because I was going to ask you, from a career standpoint, what was life like before real estate? And I know you were in tech for a little bit. What was that like then?
Yeah, what's interesting? I'll give a brief overview of my career path, but I actually, out of high school, went to university for a semester, did fairly well, and it just felt like it wasn't for me. And I remember approaching my mom at some point. I said, "Hey, I don't think university's for me, but I want to go to music school." And I don't know what it was, but by the grace of God, she was fully on board with that. And she was like, "You know what? I feel like you are meant to go to music school." And, up and throughout like high school and junior high and things of that nature, I was in band and played in drumline and, I was a percussionist and a drummer and just absolutely loved it. And I ended up going to music school in Los Angeles. I literally left the semester after university and went out there. And my dream at the time was to play in a band. And I did that for a while. We had, some moderate success up until I was about 25, 26 years old, but kind of saw the writing on the wall. And as I did see that writing on the wall, I went and started applying at jobs. And while I was in the band, I actually used to work at Apple, and I was working at like the Genius Bar. Like when you go into the Apple store and you need tech support, that was me. I was behind that bar helping people. And I worked there for way longer than I'm willing to admit, but it helped float the bills, right? I was a starving musician in Los Angeles trying to make waves with the band. So,
and believe me, people like me needed the Genius Bar. So people like me thank people like you for helping us.
Totally. But that job was phenomenal just because it taught me how to socially interact with people and empathize with people and, obviously be very proficient within technology as well. And then I remember applying at Disney Animation. So, the people who make all the great films we watch. And I have no idea how I got this job. I like to tell people I was the personality hire, because when I did get the job there, everyone on my team had a computer science degree except for me. And I snuck my way in the door. They hired me on to wrap up Moana at the time, back when that was the first one, back when that was about to be released. And it was just surreal, walking into that studio every day. I felt, so out of place with all these extremely talented creatives and directors and producers. I mean, there's still people there who hand draw 2D animation from like the Aladdin era. It's just wild. But anyways, that took me to eventually go to Netflix, because Netflix decided they were going to open up their own animation studio, and they started poaching every single human from Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, wherever someone was drawing stuff or doing any form of animation, they wanted a piece of it to compete as they're, building their conglomerate. And I was one of the first to leave and go over there from Disney, and I'm so glad I did, because that was, Disney is such a well-refined machine when you go in there. Like, they create movies one way, their stories, are similar in ways, and it's just like, hey, you don't go outside this box. You come into work, we're going to make these movies the way they're made. You don't do anything else. And a lot of people work really well in that environment. And Netflix was the complete opposite. They said, hey, here's a credit card. Go do and buy whatever it takes to build this animation studio as quickly as possible. And my boss didn't come from animation, and he didn't even work in animation. And so, I literally had the freedom to go do whatever I want. We were building all the infrastructure and IT and servers and everything you can imagine that it would take to, build a multi-million, potentially billion-dollar company. And it was awesome. I felt like I could spread my wings for the first time in my life and really show people what I was made of. And I never had that freedom at Apple or Disney. But that all being said, there was a burning desire to get into real estate. And once the pandemic hit, Netflix was like, hey, everyone can go leave, and we're going to be a global company at this point, fully remote. Anyone can go live wherever they want. And I said, great, I'll move to Nashville. And my brother's out here. I really like the city every time I visited, and I knew it would be an easier barrier to entry for me for real estate. And that's what I wanted to do, was start investing and developing and all this stuff. And one thing led to another, and eventually I just took that jump and that plunge, and it was awesome.
I have to ask, though, choosing Nashville, did music play a part in that decision at all?
Honestly, no. And every time I tell people I have a music degree and that I used to play drums for, X amount of years, they always find it so controversial that I don't play anymore. I mean, I still have some equipment, but I'll be honest, John, I really don't have a strong desire. Every now and then I come back and I want to dabble around and play, but I don't think it's something I want to do. Well, I know it's not something I want to do for a living. And playing music in Nashville is a grind out here. People are playing on Broadway 5-6 nights a week for 5 hours to make a few $100s. And don't get me wrong, some people enjoy that and like that lifestyle. Just knew it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that sounds right. And I can totally relate to that. I was a theater major in college, and I'm not acting or writing or directing anymore either. But I enjoy going to see plays and musicals, and I enjoy good films, but it's not, there was a time in my life where I'm like, yeah, that's my goal. That's what I want to do. But as I got older and then realized I wasn't cut out to be a starving artist and, realized I wanted my life to look different, then I was able to kind of let that go. And I think it reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote where, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect the dots when you're looking backwards. And I can see all those things in my life that led me to right here, even though they seemed like my purpose at the time. They seemed like my passion at the time. They led me to where I am today. And that's exactly what it sounds like for you. You have this insane resume. You're like, well, I, worked for Disney, worked for Apple, worked for Netflix, companies that people are like, that's my goal. I've made it. And then you're like, no, there was something more for me. I had to do something in real estate. And that shows right there, it had to be a burning desire, because who else gives up that type of job security and resume for something?
1,000,000%. And I know you know this too, but like once you get a taste of the entrepreneurial life, it's like there's no going back. That freedom that you have is unlike anything that I can describe. I mean, it is just so fulfilling. And yeah, being my own boss is so fulfilling. Be able to impact others is so fulfilling. I mean, the list goes on. It's truly like infinite possibilities every day when you wake up.
Absolutely. Were there any specific fears that almost kept you from making that leap?
My goodness, yes. I actually had a business coach at the time, and him and I were trying to like be very mechanical and plot like when I would leave Netflix. And so I was like working up towards it with him for maybe like 4 to 6 months. And I remember uh we were trying to decide on a date, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And I think it was like March of 2020 or something like that. 2024. And I was like, all right, I'm going to leave in June. And I had this month or like this date about like 3 months out or something like that, or 2 months out. And he was like, why don't you just do it in like 2 weeks? I was like, what do you mean 2 weeks? I was like, no, like I just literally spent all this time. We've been working together for 6 months, and now you want 2 weeks when I finally found a date that I feel comfortable with. And I'm so grateful for him at the time because he totally pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And he's like, nothing is going to change in a couple weeks, in a few months. He's like, there's literally nothing. And he was totally right. But yeah, like I've never been an entrepreneur before. And it was a whole new atmosphere to me. And when I initially was leaving Netflix, my plan was to do short-term rental property management. Like I had a short-term rental that I managed. I had just joined a mastermind that I spent nearly $20,000 on. And I was like gearing up for this big moment of like, yeah, I'm starting this company. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, I didn't know what the landscape entailed whatsoever.
Hmm. So, not just the fear of the unknown, but it sounds like some fear of identity too. Like it sounds like, you had to become somebody different to build Dauenhauer Capital, right? I mean, would you say that's fair?
1,000,000%. And kind of like what I was alluding to, like just to give a little more backstory and history, like the plan was to leave Netflix to do a short-term rental property management company. I ended up taking that jump. And, the whole reason I was able to get up into that point is when I moved to Nashville, I would attend every real estate networking event I could get my hands on. I didn't care what it was about. All I knew was I needed to meet people and build relationships and just see where it took me. And so I had a pretty strong network. And then after I quit and, I just would go on coffees with people and stuff like that, two of my now business partners approached me and they were like, hey, we're building all these single family and multifamily homes, but our biggest struggle is raising capital. I was like, that's interesting. They're like, do you know of anyone who would be interested, in investing in real estate? I was like, I don't, but I think I can raise the capital. Like, I moved from Los Angeles. I know a lot of people at Netflix who are doing really well for themselves. Let me do it. And so that ended up being what turned into my real estate career. It wasn't even the property management company. It started in development. And so I was like, all right, I'll raise capital. I had no idea what I was getting into at the time. And now, that has turned into like having my own company where I raised capital for Dauenhauer Capital that feeds it into my other businesses, or even maybe if someone else needs help within one of their deals, I can help raise it on their behalf, sort of thing. But back to what you said about the Steve Jobs thing of, only connecting the dots backward. It's like I had no intentions of starting Dauenhauer Capital at any point until, maybe a year and a half ago or so.
Wow. So how did you get that confidence to be like, I can raise capital? I mean, that's a lot different than animation and tech and everything else you were doing, but somehow was it just inside you? Was it built? Like, where did that confidence come from?
I think it slowly grew. And one part of the story I forgot to mention is that while I was still at Netflix and like up until the point of me leaving, I was actually investing some of my own capital with some guys locally in deals. So they were raising the capital for flipping homes. I would give them, let's just say like 50 grand or whatever the number was, and I'd get a 12% return on. So I kind of saw the inner workings of how these guys were doing it, just being an investor myself. And then eventually it got to the point, when my two now business partners approached me, I was like, okay, like, I think I understand this. Like, I know some wealthy people. And to be honest, John, like, I just wanted it so bad. Like, I was just going to make it happen. I didn't know what it took, but like, I knew like development was the path that seemed right for me. Even though I just left to start a property management company, I was like, this is a huge opportunity. Like, I will figure this out, even though I don't know what I'm doing. And I think sometimes in life, like, you just got to take that jump. I don't truly think any of us know what we're actually doing, right, until we jump.
Well, and you burned the ships too. Like that is a huge change in your mindset when you do burn the ships. Like, that's huge. And when you're like, okay, I left Netflix, and you didn't just leave. You moved to Nashville. You're no longer in Los Angeles. Like, and I know that they're a global company. You could still technically work there, but still, you got away from a lot of the people that you would have been networking with, and just kind of went all in on short-term rentals. And then that led you to this next phase. So what makes someone, I know you do a lot with partnerships. So what makes someone trustworthy enough to invest with?
Let me rephrase that potentially. Do you mean someone like me, like getting money from them and them having the confidence to invest within me?
I think probably, maybe that's the answer. I'm thinking, when you're investing, other people are investing their money with you, then are there ever times where you're like, I don't think this is a match. I don't know that's maybe trustworthy or something like that. And so you're just like, oh, I don't know. I'm gonna work with these people. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, no,
but I
totally.
also know you partnered with, you have business partners as well. So I could really be both, like for your own businesses, and then also when you're helping other people by raising capital.
Yeah, I think I understand that question. So some people may not be a good fit for us when I raise capital. And usually, the funniest thing I tell people with raising capital is the more experienced investor, the harder it is to raise capital. So like, if I'm raising from someone who is very liquid and invests in a diverse, set of portfolio, they are more difficult to get money from because they understand the game. They want a lot of securities behind the money that they'd be giving me. They want a super high return because they know that if they don't go with me, they can find other vehicles to get that kind of return as well. So my best client, honestly, is the 9-to-5 worker that I once was. It's a lot of people who want to get into real estate that haven't been in real estate, and this is a good intro to them. And that's exactly how it happened for me, right? I was investing with guys. I was close, real estate adjacent, and then eventually I turned into a real estate professional. So I think it's a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm used to just investing in my 401k or an IRA or bonds or some kind of security of that nature, but I would love to get into real estate. I don't own a home, or maybe I do own a home and I have a HELOC, or I have some extra capital here or there. So I try to target people in those scenarios, and they are by far the best.
That makes a lot of sense, because if someone's working a 9 to 5, they're looking for something more passive when it comes to their investing.
Totally.
As opposed to, like you said, if someone's already out there doing themselves, then they're probably not your person per se. They just buy their own rental properties or whatever. But I think this makes a lot of sense, because you're serving people by giving them the opportunity to invest while still working their own 9 to 5 if they aren't entrepreneurs at heart. What mistakes do you think a lot of new investors make?
Well, I'll tell you this, I have made some myself, and I think really new investors, at least when it comes to investing in real estate, need to understand how deals are underwritten. Because I see so many deals come across my desk of people raising capital or needing money for different real estate vehicles, and you truly have to understand how it's underwritten. You need to know the market. You need to understand their exit strategies. So whether they're going to sell, whether they're going to refi and hold it, or whatever it is. And between those three things, I think you can get a good grasp of, hey, is this a good deal or not? The problem is, to your point you just mentioned, most people who work 9 to 5s don't have the time to underwrite and understand how all of this works. And that's why it's such a relationship heavy thing I do when I talk to people, right? Like, they need to see the proof is in the pudding. And I show them past records of like, hey, here's all of our deals that have been successful, and we've always paid every single investor back their initial capital and return, even if we've lost money or not. And I'm not going to say or try to pretend that I haven't lost money, because I have definitely lost money in real estate deals. But we underwrite this to, even if we do lose money or things hit rock bottom, our investors are still protected. And now if '08 happens again, I can't guarantee that by any means, but as long as some like catastrophic event doesn't occur, most of the time these investors are safe. But still, you need to trust the person who is taking your money, and you need to understand that they know what they're talking about when underwriting these deals.
I've never heard of someone who raises capital say those words. Even if we lose money, we're going to protect your investment. I've never heard that. And like you said, I mean, it's not foolproof if the entire economy collapses or whatever, but that alone sets you apart from other people who are raising capital. I mean, that's a really that's a bold statement, a bold claim.
Yeah, and truly, like, I think an '08 event would be one of the only scenarios where it's like, hey, we all are losing right now, and like, I can't help you out. But most of the time, what I'm referring to is like, if we do lose money, it's not a lot of money. We're not losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if we do take like a 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 hit, yeah, that's coming out of like my income or my company's income, because it is way more valuable to have that investor come back to me at a later time than to burn them, have them lose money. It's like, I'm playing the long game here. Like, I'm not playing the short game, even if that means I'm taking a net loss.
That's really powerful. I love that, and it makes a lot of sense. And just from how much I know you right now too, it seems to absolutely match your level of integrity that I've seen, and that's I think that's amazing. And that kind of, if somebody's looking to invest, and I'm sure you probably are dealing with investors who can take a small loss or something like that. But even if they don't hit it out of the park on one deal, because they trust you, they're going to come back for another deal. And I think that separates you from a lot of people that raise capital. Please pardon me while I interrupt your podcast episode with a quick message. If you're enjoying today's episode, can I ask you one small favor? If you're watching on YouTube, just please take a second to hit that little bell and subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button and share this. Share it with someone who needs some encouragement today. Also, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, I need your help there too. I would be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and review, and share this episode with a friend. These simple actions make a tremendous difference in the growth of this show. They help these conversations reach more people who are searching for hope, searching for purpose, searching for practical mindset tools that will transform their lives. And if you're looking for even more motivation, mindset strategies, and purpose-driven content, I would love to connect with you on social media. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at John Street Official. Also, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. Just search for John Street. And then one last very important thing. If you've ever found yourself asking questions like, why am I here? Am I living my purpose? How do I get unstuck in life? How do I take my life to the next level? Then I would love to invite you to schedule a free clarity call with me. Let me be clear. This is not a sales call. This is not a coaching call with someone from my team. This is nothing pre-recorded. This is a real one-on-one coaching conversation with me. And together we will explore where you are, where you want to go, and what may be standing in your way. My goal is simply to help you gain greater clarity, direction, and momentum in reaching your goals. To connect with me, to schedule your clarity call, or to learn more about the Revolution of Purpose coaching programs that I offer, please visit johnstreet.org or reach out to me on any of the social media platforms I mentioned. And now, let's get you back to today's episode. But what would you say separates like great deals from average deals too?
I think it's really about the amount of like buffer you have per se. Like how much capital are we going to clear at the end of this deal? Because really that's what's protecting you at the end of the day. It's like how much money are we making so we can pay investors out? So a lot of times we do flat rate deals for our investors. So like we'll raise, let's just say $100,000, and we'll give the investors usually between 12 and 18% return on their money, which is awesome, right? Like I'm on a mission to prove that like, hey, we beat the stock market.
Amazing.
Yeah, like we beat the stock market, on average, right? And it's cool because this vehicle is secured, protected, and insured by real estate, right? So you're on the title of the actual real estate. We put these investors on the insurance policy too, right? So like if a fire or a tornado or something knocks down the building, they're going to get a payout from the insurance alongside us. We also, write up promissory notes to our title companies to make sure that like, hey, this is all documented, you're protected, if need be. But it's really about that fat that's on the deal. If you have a bigger deal, that is going to be way safer for the investors to guarantee that they have their capital. So when you see these slim margin deals, sure, they can work out and investors can get high percentages of what they're promised, but you're in the danger zone. You're truly playing with fire. And, as you know, John, being an agent, like the market has just fluctuated way too much over the past couple of years to be playing those games.
Absolutely. And I know a wise real estate investor told me once, this was probably on my very first flip that I did, because I've also done real estate investing in the past as well. And I remember he told me, he said, well, you make your money on the front end. And if you go into it with a small margin, you're not going to somehow make up for that on the back. Like that margin just keeps going one thing after another. I remember my very first flip. I mean, I think I probably made like $1,000 by the time all was said and done. And they say if you don't lose money in your first flip, then it's great experience. And I mean, it was like going to real estate school. Like my contractor, like the whole deal was taking longer than thought. He had another job that started, just pulled off the last 2 weeks. I'm like in this house that I'm flipping, putting on doorknobs myself and like fixing, the blinds and stuff. But it worked, and I did it. And you can't get that education any other way. So it was amazing. But I definitely learned. I'm like, okay, I need more fat on the bone. I need more meat on the bone for the next deal.
100%. It can get super scary and nervous, and everyone thinks that like flipping is just how it is on HGTV, but oh my goodness, there is so much further from the truth. It is a high risk, high reward industry.
Yeah, on HGTV, I mean, they're like, oh no, we just had a massive plumbing leak, and they go to commercial break, and then they come back and they're like, oh, it was fine, we got it worked out. And it's like, that's not how real life works. When you go to commercial, you still have a massive plumbing leak.
Exactly.
It takes money to fix it. So yeah. So shifting gears a little bit to coaching. So what is making you feel this pull to coaching? I'm honestly imagining that it is somewhat service related, because it seems like you love working with kind of new investors and people who aren't, investing all the time. So is that what's making you think about coaching and real estate coaching specifically?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. One is being around a bunch of coaches all the time, like yourself, John. Like I'm surrounded with all of my peers and mentors as coaches, and it's just so awesome to see the growth within all of the students of that, right? And I think that does come from a place of service. And truly, like real estate has changed my life in a way I would have never expected whatsoever. Starting to investing in those flips, and then getting into development, and just knowing and doing what I know now, and having a ton of real estate within the past 5 years. It's truly a blessing. I'm like, people need to know this. Like I have so many friends that want to get out of their 9 to 5, and they've tried everything. They've tried different side hustles and all these things. I'm like, hey, just start with one property. You know what I mean? Obviously the cash flow and things of that nature is not going to get you out, but if you're trying to build long-term wealth, it is amazing. And I started off by getting a short-term rental. And what's awesome about that is like I get to go exercise that short-term rental by going and staying there and hanging out. I let my friends go and stay there. And it's just the coolest piece or type of real estate you can do because it's just fun and you get to create other experiences for people. This one is in Blue Ridge, Georgia. So it's about 3.5, 4 hours away. A lot of my portfolio is out there. But yeah, it's so much fun. And you get to create these lifelong experiences for people using the short-term rental vehicle. I mean, I've had people propose at this cabin. They spend anniversaries all the time. And some of my most fond memories growing up was staying at short-term rentals with my family. And so like, it's just kind of like passing down the torch. But with that all being said, yeah, it comes back to like, how do I now help other people do this? Because there is so much wealth out there to be shared. Like I realize like I can't take all this down myself. Even if I could, I wouldn't want to. Like how do we get all my friends and family and people who are truly driven to get on the same boat and come experience it too?
I love that. We are tapped into an infinite supply.
That's it, man.
It's out there. I mean, it's out there. And it doesn't all belong, to the billionaires or trillionaires. I had somebody, and it's weird to say that, but now we get to say trillionaire. It's actually singular, but billionaires and trillionaire.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
But yeah, I had somebody ask me in my DMs. I have an appointment setter, but I still hop into a lot of my own DMs. And somebody was like, "What do you think about all these billionaires? Aren't they just evil?" And I was like, "Some of them maybe, but some of them aren't." I was like, "Some of them have done a lot of good things." And it's a good reminder that we get to decide what we do with whatever wealth we make. We don't have to accumulate it just to be like Scrooge McDuck and dive into a pile of gold coins. Money in the hands of good people does good things. And so building wealth, there should never be anything that is shameful or evil around building wealth. Like we get to help other people through building wealth, and then they get to help other people, and then they get to help other people. You can't have a global initiative to end world hunger if there's no wealth or capital behind it. So I think that's awesome.
I couldn't agree more. And I had a pretty big mental shift that took me way long to learn. And what that is like just sharing with others. When I was at Netflix, is a very cutthroat environment. Yes, they claim, oh, we're a big team and we're growing and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, your colleague would slit your throat to get that promotion over you, right? Like people are grinding to move to the top in big tech. And that's just the way it was. And so I feel like when I left, I kind of took that mentality unconsciously into real estate, and I'm like, no, like I want to do this deal all by myself. I don't want to, split the equity or do anything of that nature. And now I'm like, who wants to come in? Like let's bring everybody in who wants to be a part of this deal. And what's awesome is the more you build relationships with people and do more deals with people, law of reciprocity, it just all comes back tenfold. Like I get to go do more stuff and more opportunities with others. And I'm starting to realize like you can't scale without giving and sharing to other people either. And so if I were to give any piece of advice to anyone listening to this, it's like start doing real estate with people like, and trust. But make sure like, and trust them on a deeper level when you're starting off. But then it just starts exploding. You're going and doing it with everybody.
Oh, that's huge. That's some great advice right there. How would you say your definition of success has changed through this whole journey, Brendan?
My gosh. I honestly think about that very frequently. And I think I still am mentally defining what success means to me personally. Because I think once you start accumulating wealth, you realize like, hey, this is awesome and fun, but it's not the end all be all. And, some of my favorite times in life are just hanging out with friends, talking about life and quantum physics and all the stuff we love to read and chat about all the time, right? But it's like, I didn't need wealth to get to that place. Like that stuff's been in front of me the whole time. Wealth is just a vehicle that allows you to, go experience maybe some more physical abundance within the world. So I don't know how I define it, to be honest, John. I know that my end goal or maybe one of my bigger goals, or probably the biggest I have on the map right now, is I want to own a museum that's philanthropic and completely gives back, once I'm gone. And I think that comes back to, like me growing up and loving the arts, kind of similar to you. And like, I just feel so opulent and calm and at peace when I go to like art museums. And I even just started recently like collecting art, and like I just love it so much. And I'm like, I want other people to feel that opulence and that safety when they come into my museum. But also it's like, hey, this is a philanthropic venture. We'll always give back and make a difference. And I feel like we all need to focus on, making the world a better place before we leave it.
Is a beautiful and a powerful legacy, Brendan. It really is. And I love that. And, the philanthropic nature of that museum, would that be to sort of provide a place for the arts to maybe people who don't have those options?
I'll be honest, I don't know what it is. I think on it frequently and I have a few thoughts in mind, but I haven't zeroed in on what that is. And I think what's awesome is I don't really need to know the how yet. Like, I know when that comes to me and when that hits me, it will be the right time and the right thing. All I know is like, hey, that's my vision and that's where I'm heading right now to build that. And that's part of what I want my legacy to be.
That's amazing. And you light up when you talk about it. So that is definitely part of your legacy. You can tell.
Thank you.
The more that we flow into the things that give us life, then we know we're going in the right direction. It's when we think about the things we don't like doing and we're like, I hate that. Then that's a good thing of being like, okay, is that something that you can give to someone else? Is that someone that you can hire someone to do or whatever? Just create room so that you can flow in the things you love to do. And when those things light you up, run toward those.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give you a quick lightning round, Brendan.
Oh boy.
So I hope you're
Here
ready.
Here we go. All right. Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, first answer that you're comfortable sharing that comes to your mind.
All right.
We'll start with favorite book.
Oh, by far, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I tell people that all the time. And, for those who haven't read that book, it might sound manipulative, but it is the furthest thing from the truth. It's all about being a good conversationalist. And I actually love teaching about that book and that topic as well, because I think conversation is just one of the most powerful human experiences that is out there. And to be a good conversationalist, you're naturally going to attract better people and business into your life.
Absolutely. So I know we're in the lightning round, but I want to say, so would that play a part in the coaching that you're going to do? Is that part of what you would teach and coach people? Like, not just about how to find a good real estate deal or invest, but would that be part of that coaching?
I think there's elements to it. And, I honestly haven't really thought about that, because How to Win Friends and Influence People, at least the way I interpret it, can get like really mechanical when you're just talking to people. But maybe that is because, when you're raising capital, the first step is to build a good relationship with the people you want to get capital from.
Absolutely. Okay, next lightning round. Back to my original format. So what's the best investment you've ever made? Financially.
Well, I did just buy some SpaceX stock, but unfortunately that's already down at what I bought it at. But I think long term that might be one of the best investments. But I think I'm trying to think of a specific real estate deal that is the most lucrative. But I biasedly will say real estate, just because I think it's awesome. You get the tax benefits, appreciation, the cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. It might be my first house that I lived in. I have a 2.75 rate on there. It's in Nashville. It's appreciated a few $100,000 since I bought it. I would say that is the best one I've done so far.
I'm living in my best investment. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will be a rental for as long as I can keep it a rental, and I have no intentions of selling.
Awesome. So what about worst investment? Anything stand out where you're like, oh man, I wish I
Yes, I have, back to investing in other people. I have, lost capital investing in a bad flip. I was kind of on a high thinking like, oh yeah, what could go wrong? And all the other deals I had done have gone right. And yes, have lost money definitely investing in other people's deals. So I think that goes back to like we were saying, like making sure you know who you're investing with and how to at least read a pro forma and understand what it looks like.
That is huge advice. Oh my gosh. If you don't know what a pro forma is, do not invest. Like
Yeah.
you need to have some basic knowledge for that.
And honestly, now with like Claude and ChatGPT, like just put the pro forma in there and let Claude guide you and help, decide if it's a good deal or not.
It is a whole new world. Well, that's my next question. How do you feel like AI is going to change the real estate space?
My goodness. John, I'll tell you, like, one of my best friends owns a very successful marketing company, and he is super into AI. And the irony is, I worked in tech for almost 15 years, and I utilize AI close to every day, but not at the extent of like some other people I know like him. And so like when I get on a call with him, like he just makes me feel super inferior, not intentionally. I'm just like, holy crap, I have so much to learn. So with that all being said, I don't have a direct response to that. But what I personally use it for is underwriting the crap out of deals. Like we just went under contract on a micro resort, and resorts have so many logistics to where like I don't think I could have built this pro forma or spreadsheet without the help of Claude. But now I'm just like, hey, telling it this, telling it that, typing it in. You don't have to be an Excel genius in order to succeed anymore. I don't need to have someone who has a degree in finance to be able to assist me with that, and I actually feel confident within it. But that is like the smallest sliver where I think AI is going to help real estate.
Yeah, but I think that's something that's some knowledge that's accessible, and that people who watch this that maybe aren't investors, that's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you aren't sure about the deal, use AI will help you underwrite it. I think that's a very good point. So what does Brendan's morning routine look like?
Woo! It looks like hitting snooze a couple of times. I'm going to be honest, I'm human. I hit snooze probably at least twice per day. Try to get up by around 7:15. I actually meet every single morning, Monday through Friday, with two other guys to where we'll read personal development material. Like right now, we're reading the good old classic Think and Grow Rich, and we're reading it front to back. And what's so awesome is just having people like that who are aligned and want to grow and develop alongside you. And we get to challenge each other. And we meet, every single morning, Monday through Friday. If you miss the call, you owe the other people $100 in the call. So it's like, you better show up every time. And it's just awesome. But that, I would say, is like the non-negotiable morning routine. And then after that, I go and I'm fortunate to have a gym in my house. I go to the gym downstairs and work out. Then I snuggle with my dog briefly and have breakfast. Then I'm off to the races. But I keep do not disturb on until 10 a.m. every day. Like I refuse to like wake up in this chaos of like notifications and checking stuff and just like getting right into it. Like I ease into my day every single day. And that has been a game changer for me.
It is so huge. I really do believe that we win our day by winning our mornings. I mean, absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. Took me 35 years to get to that point, but yeah, I completely agree.
So I just have a couple of more questions for you, but I want to thank you so much, Brendan, for taking this time to be here on the Revolution of Purpose podcast. And it's just awesome to see how you're growing in your purpose. You're clearly flowing in it. You're making a difference. You have goals around not just wealth, but also philanthropy. And I think it's awesome to see that. So I'm so thankful that you're here.
Thank you so much. Truly an honor.
So if someone is listening to this and they feel stuck in a career that no longer fits, or they're terrified to make the leap, what would you tell them?
I think what's interesting is that if you believe in a God of any kind, or the universe, or, whatever you want to call it, that you're fully supported. And I truly believe that like these ideas or downloads aren't imprinted into your mind unless you were able to achieve them. And so for someone who even has the idea of leaving their 9-to-5, just knowing that you're fully supported, I mean, is such a game changer. And that takes a mental shift to get to, right? But I think anything is truly possible. And I love how within our reality, like things are constantly challenged and pushed and records are broken, and just speaks to like, truly like we can do anything. Like the human potential is truly limitless. And I hope that anyone who's listening just doesn't feel fearful, because fear is the only thing that's going to hold you back. And fear really is an illusion at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Every decision is either fear or faith. I
Yeah.
mean, every single one. And so don't make the fearful ones if you can help it. It takes changing your paradigm, but that's huge. So the last question I have for you, as you know, this entire podcast is about purpose and living your purpose. So what is one thing about purpose that you think maybe most people are missing?
I think purpose really just looks different for everybody. And I think that's okay. You know, like a lot of people's quote purpose is to get rich and have a lot of nice things. And I think that's a lie and a joke compared to what society has told us is. But like truly purpose can mean anything. Like I look at like stay-at-home moms, and my goodness, like that is a calling and a purpose. And a lot of those stay-at-home moms feel inadequate because they're not having this 7-figure job or, you know, being able to support financially a family or whatever. But it's like, hey, like there is so much meaning and purpose in just being a mom. And that was something I had growing up and like wouldn't have traded it for anything. Right. And so I just hope that people who feel a calling, like, you know what you're calling. I truly believe everyone knows what their calling is and their purpose is. And it really comes down to that faith or fear if you're going to pursue it. But there is no purpose too big or too small within this world. We're truly all here for a reason.
I love that. That's huge. And yeah, whatever your purpose looks like, have the courage to flow in it. If it doesn't align, let it go. Flow in that purpose. That is huge.
Yes.
Brendan, if people want to connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
You can find me on probably Instagram or LinkedIn. On Instagram, it is Build with Brendan. You can also find me Dauenhauercapital.com, but those are probably the best two ways to find me.
That is fantastic. And so if they are watching this and they may want to look into ways to invest with you, I'm assuming they need to be an accredited investor to make that happen. Just reach out through Dauenhauer Capital. Is that right?
Just fill out the form on Dauenhauercapital.com. You actually do not have to be an accredited investor to work with me, but yeah, just, you know, fill out a few questions, super easy, and I'd love to reach out and connect them.
That's fantastic, man. And yeah, as you have everything ready for the launch of the coaching program, I will update that in the show notes too. So if you're watching this in the end of July 2026 when it originally airs, or if you see it months later, definitely check out the show notes because we will put that information there. Because if I were looking to get started in real estate investing, having a coach would be paramount. And so I'm so glad that you're planning to do that, Brendan.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it will be all over my Instagram too. Wherever you find it in the notes or Instagram, it'll be there.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you again for being here. And thank you for everyone that tunes into this Revolution of Purpose. The conversation shows on Thursdays. I know you got a lot out of this. It has just been amazing to have Brendan with us. And don't forget Monday's solo show. I'll be deep diving again into identity and mindset. And no matter what comes your way, make sure you are living and flowing in your purpose. Have a great day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, if it challenged you, or if it helped you see your life a little bit differently, would you do me a favor? Subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating or review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Every share helps us reach more people who are searching for hope, purpose, and a life of greater meaning. And if you're ready to stop wondering what's next and start living with greater clarity and purpose in your own life, I would love to meet with you personally. Visit johnstreet.org right now to schedule your complimentary live purpose and clarity call with me. Until next time, remember, your purpose is not something you find. It is something you awaken to, and then you choose to live it. Go make today another step in your own revolution of purpose.